Millionaire single dad sees Waitress, teaching his nonverbal son to speak. What he does next changes. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's begin the story. It was a quiet evening at the upscale restaurant in the city. The kind of place where every dish looked like a work of art and every guest seemed to belong. But for Ethan Parker, the millionaire single dad sitting alone at the corner table, it felt anything but glamorous. He gazed out of the large window, his mind occupied with worries about his son, Noah. The 5-year-old boy had been nonverbal since birth, and despite all the resources Ethan could provide, Noah had yet to say his first word. Ethan had tried everything, from speech therapists to private tutors, but nothing seemed to work. As Ethan sat there, lost in thought, his gaze shifted to the small table across the room where a young woman with a warm smile was gently talking to a young child. Ethan watched as she patiently repeated words and helped the child form sounds. It wasn't the first time he had seen her at the restaurant. Her name was Lily, a waitress, and her calm demeanor and kind heart had always stood out. But today, something was different. The way she interacted with the child felt almost magical. There was an energy about her, a calm confidence that made her seem more than just a server at the restaurant. Ethan leaned forward, intrigued by the scene unfolding before him. Lily wasn't just serving food. She was making a real difference in a child's life. Noah had always been difficult to manage in public, but watching this woman, Ethan wondered if there was something she could teach him, something his wealth and status couldn't buy. As the evening passed, he couldn't help but notice that Noah had stopped fidgeting, his attention focused entirely on the woman and the child she was helping. He seemed to be drawn to her in a way that Ethan had never seen before. His heart ached with both hope and uncertainty. Could Lily be the one to finally help Noah speak? As the night came to a close, Ethan found himself unable to stop thinking about her. The thought that this simple waitress could be the key to unlocking his son's silence consumed him. But how could he approach her? Would she even be willing to help? Little did he know, this small act of kindness would set in motion a chain of events that would change his life and Noah's forever. After the encounter at the restaurant, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about Lily. The way she interacted with the child, her calm patience, and the gentle way she encouraged him to speak had left a lasting impression on him. He had seen many specialists, spent a fortune on treatments, and tried countless methods to help Noah find his voice. But none of them had worked. Yet, here was this waitress, just doing her job, and she seemed to have a connection with children that he couldn't quite explain. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, she could help Noah in ways no one else could. He found himself wondering if he should approach her, but how? Should he just ask for help? Was it too forward? His mind raced as he drove home that night, the city lights reflecting off the windows of his sleek car. But his thoughts were far from the world outside. They were fixed on a small restaurant, a waitress, and a nonverbal child. The following day, Ethan sat in his study, his hands steepled together as he stared at the family photos on the desk, each picture telling a story of his past, of his life before Noah's birth. He had been a successful businessman, a bachelor who believed in his career above all else. But after Noah's birth, everything changed. The child was a gift, yes, but a gift that came with complications. Raising Noah without a mother had been the most difficult part of it all. His ex-wife had left shortly after Noah's diagnosis, unable to cope with the challenges of having a child who was nonverbal. Ethan never blamed Noah for his condition, but the world often blamed him. As a father, he had tried to do everything for his son. He had hired tutors, arranged for speech therapists, and thrown every bit of his wealth at the problem. But still, Noah remained silent. Ethan looked at the phone in his hand, knowing he had to make a decision. It was now or never. He picked up the phone and dialed the restaurant. His fingers trembled slightly as the phone rang, the connection building the tension in his chest. The voice on the other end answered, and Ethan, still unsure of how to word his request, simply asked for Lily. When she picked up the phone, he hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Lily, this is Ethan Parker. I don't know if you remember me, but I was at your restaurant last night. I have a son. His name is Noah, and he's been having difficulty speaking. I saw how you worked with the child last night, and I was wondering if you might be able to help us. Help him." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Ethan felt his pulse quicken. Would she be interested? Would she agree? Finally, Lily spoke. "Of course, Mr. Parker. I remember you, and I'd be happy to help. It's not something I usually do, but I think I can assist. When would be a good time to meet?" Ethan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Thank you, Lily. Thank you so much. We can meet tomorrow morning at my house. I'd really appreciate it." They set the time, and Ethan hung up the phone, feeling both relieved and nervous. The next morning, Lily arrived at Ethan's mansion at precisely 9 o'clock. Ethan had arranged everything to make sure the environment was calm and comfortable for Noah. He had set up a small, quiet space in the living room, with toys and books scattered around to make it feel less formal. When Lily entered, Ethan couldn't help but feel a wave of gratitude. She was here, and Noah would finally have a chance. He introduced her to Noah, and though the young boy was shy, there was an instant recognition in his eyes. Ethan watched as Lily knelt down to his level, her voice soft and comforting, as she gently encouraged him to try speaking. The connection between them was immediate. She didn't push him too hard, didn't overwhelm him. She simply made Noah feel safe. It was a small, subtle shift, but it felt monumental. Noah had never been so focused on someone who wasn't his father. Ethan stood back, amazed. Was this the breakthrough they had been waiting for? As the day went on, Lily continued to work with Noah. She didn't rush him. She used simple words, encouraging sounds, and gave him the space to communicate in his own time. Ethan observed quietly, feeling both hope and disbelief. This was a side of his son he had never seen. For the first time in a long time, Ethan allowed himself to believe that his son might one day speak. But more than that, Ethan realized that this wasn't just about Noah finding his voice, it was about Ethan finding hope again. That evening, as the sun set and the house grew quiet, Ethan thanked Lily for her help. He knew that Noah's journey was just beginning. But in that moment, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The days that followed were a blur of hope and progress for Ethan and Noah. Each morning, Lily would arrive at the house at the same time. And each day, Noah grew a little more comfortable with her. Ethan watched as his son, who had once been closed off and silent, slowly began to respond to Lily's gentle encouragement. She had a way of making him feel safe, a way of speaking to him that no one else had ever managed to do. Ethan felt a sense of relief, but it was tempered by his growing concern. Could this really work? Could Noah truly find his voice? The more he watched Noah interact with Lily, the more it seemed like a possibility. Still, Ethan knew that this was just the beginning. There would be many challenges ahead. One afternoon, after a particularly long session, Lily pulled Ethan aside. She spoke softly, her eyes focused on Noah, who was playing quietly with his toys nearby. "Ethan, I think he's ready for something more," she said. "He's showing signs of being able to say a few words, but he needs more consistency. He needs a routine." Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "What do you mean by routine?" he asked. Lily smiled, her confidence in her voice growing. "He needs something to anchor him, something to make him feel secure enough to try speaking. It's not just about the words, it's about trust. If he can trust that the world around him won't overwhelm him, he'll open up." Ethan was quiet for a moment, his mind working. He had the resources to create a routine for Noah, to surround him with support, but could he do it? Could he give Noah the stability he needed to thrive? He looked at Noah, playing peacefully, and something shifted inside him. "I'll do whatever it takes," Ethan said, his voice firm. "We'll make it work." Over the next few weeks, Ethan and Lily worked together to establish a new routine for Noah. Every morning, they followed the same steps: breakfast at the same time, a short walk outside, and then a play session where they worked on simple words and sounds. Ethan made sure that his schedule at work was flexible enough to allow him to be present during the sessions. He wanted Noah to know that he was there, supporting him, no matter what. Slowly, Ethan began to notice small changes. Noah's eye contact became more frequent, his body language more open. He was starting to react to the words Lily taught him, mimicking sounds, and even occasionally saying a word or two. It wasn't much, but to Ethan, it was everything. Then, one afternoon, something happened that Ethan would never forget. They were sitting in the living room, Noah on the floor playing with his favorite toy. Lily was sitting beside him, speaking softly, encouraging him to say a simple word. "Noah," Lily said gently, "can you say ball?" Noah looked at her, his gaze fixed on her face, and then, to everyone's shock, he said the word, ball. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't much, but it was enough to bring tears to his eyes. For the first time in years, Ethan felt a wave of emotion that he hadn't allowed himself to feel in a long time. Hope. He watched as Noah smiled, a small, tentative smile, but a smile nonetheless. Lily beamed at him, her pride evident in her expression. "You did it, Noah," she said. Ethan could barely speak, his voice thick with emotion. I can't believe it," he whispered, his voice breaking. Lily put a hand on his shoulder, offering him silent comfort. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. "But this is the first step, and it's a big one." Ethan nodded, his heart full. This was the breakthrough he had been waiting for. But even as the joy flooded him, he knew the path ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks, there would be challenges. But for the first time, he believed that Noah could find his voice. And with Lily's help, he was finally starting to believe that anything was possible. As the days passed, Noah continued to make progress, and Ethan's hope grew. He was more present than ever before, watching his son take small but significant steps toward communication. And with each new word, Ethan felt a weight lifting from his shoulders, replaced by a renewed sense of possibility. Lily had given them both something more precious than any material wealth. She had given them hope, and that was worth more than anything Ethan had ever had before. As the weeks went by, Noah continued to make progress. He was still speaking only a few words, but each one was a small victory, a victory that Ethan and Lily celebrated together. Ethan's heart swelled with pride each time Noah tried to speak. Each time the little boy made a sound that was a step closer to finding his voice. But Ethan knew this was just the beginning, and there was still so much work to be done. He was committed to helping Noah, committed to giving him the best chance possible. Lily had become an essential part of their lives, and Ethan found himself looking forward to each session, each moment when Noah and Lily connected. One evening, after a particularly successful session where Noah had said several words, Ethan found himself talking to Lily after Noah had gone to bed. They sat together on the couch in the living room, the soft glow of the table lamp casting warm shadows on the walls. "Lily, I just want to thank you," Ethan said, his voice quiet but full of emotion. "You've done more for Noah than I ever could have imagined. I don't know how to repay you." Lily looked at him, her face softening with a smile. "Ethan, you don't need to repay me. I'm just doing what I can. Noah is an amazing kid. I'm just glad I can be part of his journey." Ethan paused for a moment, contemplating her words. "But it's more than that," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "I never thought I'd see this day. I never thought Noah would speak." I was starting to lose hope. Lily placed a gentle hand on his arm, offering silent reassurance. "I know," she said softly. "I could see it in your eyes. But Noah's a fighter. He just needed someone to believe in him. And you did. You both did." Ethan looked at her, his heart swelling with gratitude. "You're right," he said, his voice growing firmer. "But it's more than just Noah. I feel like I'm finally starting to believe in myself again. In us." For a moment, there was silence between them, a moment of understanding. Ethan realized that he wasn't just grateful for what Lily had done for Noah, he was grateful for her presence in their lives. She had become more than just a tutor, she had become a friend, a confidant, someone who had shown him that even in the darkest times, there was still hope. The next day, as they continued their work, Ethan was more committed than ever to giving Noah the best chance he could. He wanted to make sure Noah had every opportunity to succeed. But there was still the lingering question, what would the future hold for them all? Would Noah continue to progress? Would he be able to communicate the way other children could? And, perhaps the most pressing question of all, what role would Lily play in their lives, moving forward? That afternoon, Ethan decided to ask Lily about her plans. They sat in the backyard, where the sun was just beginning to set, casting a warm, golden light across the garden. Noah was playing with his toys nearby, his focus entirely on the small trucks he had set up in the dirt. "Lily," Ethan began, his tone serious but gentle, "I've been thinking a lot about everything you've done for us. You've been such an incredible help to Noah, and to me, but I want to know what your plans are. I mean, you can't stay here forever, right?" Lily looked at him, surprised by the question. She took a moment before responding. "Ethan, I don't know," she said honestly. "I'm not sure what the future holds for me. I've enjoyed helping Noah, and I've loved watching him grow. But I have my own goals, too. I want to open a center for children with special needs, somewhere where they can get the support and attention they deserve." Ethan nodded, understanding the ambition behind her words. "That sounds amazing," he said. "And I want to help. I want to make sure you have the resources to make that dream come true." Lily smiled at him, her expression soft and grateful. "Thank you, Ethan, but you've already given me so much. I can't ask for more." Ethan smiled back, but his mind was already working. He wanted to do more for her, for both her and Noah. He knew that Lily was a rare person, someone who had not only changed Noah's life but had also brought light back into his own. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the yard, Ethan made a decision. "Lily," he said, his voice full of sincerity, "I want you to know that whatever happens next, you're a part of this family. And if there's anything I can do to help you with your dreams, you don't have to do it alone. We'll do it together." Lily's eyes filled with warmth, and she nodded, knowing that Ethan's words weren't just promises. They were the foundation of a bond that had been built on trust, hope, and the belief that anything was possible. As the day ended, Ethan felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. His son was finding his voice, and he had found a partner in Lily who believed in him and in the potential of his family. It was only the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. But Ethan knew that with Lily by their side, anything was possible. As the days passed, Ethan's life began to feel like it was finally coming together. Noah's progress with his speech was slow but steady, and every small victory made Ethan feel like a weight was being lifted from his shoulders. But there was still a sense of uncertainty that lingered in the background, especially as Lily's role in their lives continued to evolve. It wasn't just about Noah anymore. It was about the bond they were forming as a family. Ethan's feelings toward Lily had shifted. She had become more than just the woman who helped Noah speak. She had become a confidant, a partner, someone who understood him in ways no one else had. But even as their relationship grew stronger, Ethan found himself grappling with the fear of what the future might hold. Would she stay? Would she continue to help Noah? Or would she move on to pursue her own dreams, as she had mentioned so often? It wasn't long before Ethan's questions were answered. One afternoon, as they sat in the garden watching Noah play, Lily turned to Ethan with a serious expression on her face. "Ethan," she said softly, "there's something I need to talk to you about." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He looked at her, his mind racing. "What's wrong?" he asked. Lily took a deep breath before speaking. "I've been thinking a lot about the future, about Noah, about you, about what's next for me." She paused for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "I know I've said before that I want to open a center for children with special needs, and that's still my dream. But I'm starting to realize that this family, your family, is my dream too. You and Noah, you've become so much a part of my life." Ethan felt a lump form in his throat as he listened to her words. He hadn't expected this. "Are you saying that you want to stay?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lily nodded. "Yes. I want to be here. I want to help Noah grow. I want to be a part of your lives, if you'll have me." Ethan felt a surge of relief wash over him. He hadn't realized just how much he wanted this until now. The thought of losing Lily, of her walking away from them, had been unbearable. But now that she was offering to stay, everything seemed to fall into place. "I want that too," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. "Noah and I need you, and He stopped himself, not sure how to finish the sentence, but Lily understood. She reached over and took his hand, her touch warm and comforting. "We'll do this together," she said, her voice filled with certainty. "We'll help Noah, and we'll figure out the rest as we go." Ethan smiled, feeling a weight he hadn't even realized he was carrying lift off of him. For the first time in a long time, he felt like everything was going to be okay. And it was more than just Noah's progress. It was the knowledge that they were a family now. And no matter what happened next, they would face it together. As the weeks went by, their bond grew stronger. Noah continued to speak more, his words becoming clearer and more confident with each passing day. Ethan and Lily worked together to create a routine that allowed Noah to feel safe and supported, and in return, Noah began to thrive. He was still a long way from being able to communicate like other children, but for the first time, Ethan felt hope for the future. But there was one more hurdle to overcome. As much as Ethan had come to rely on Lily, he knew that they needed more than just their small routine at home. They needed to reach out to others. They needed to find a community of people who could help Noah grow, who could offer the support and resources he needed to succeed. And so, Ethan made the decision to take a leap of faith. He reached out to a local foundation that specialized in helping children with speech and communication disorders. They had the resources, the expertise, and the experience to help Noah in ways Ethan couldn't. It was a big step, but Ethan knew it was the right one. He sat down with Lily that evening, after Noah had gone to bed, and shared his plan. "I think it's time to reach out for more help," Ethan said. "There's a foundation in town that could offer us some support. They have programs for children with speech difficulties. I think Noah would really benefit from it." Lily looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "I agree," she said. "I think it's time to take the next step. He's ready for more, and so are we." The next day, Ethan made the call. It was the start of a new chapter in their journey, one that would bring them closer to the resources Noah needed to find his voice. And as Ethan listened to the voice on the other end of the phone, outlining the possibilities for Noah's future, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had done everything he could for his son, but now, with Lily by his side and the foundation's support, they could give Noah the future he deserved. It was the beginning of something bigger than any of them had imagined. The next few weeks brought about significant changes for Noah, Ethan, and Lily. With the decision to reach out to the local foundation, the family began to enter a new chapter of their journey. Ethan had been cautious at first, unsure of how Noah would respond to a new environment and a more formal approach to his speech development. But after the initial meeting with the foundation's director, he felt an overwhelming sense of reassurance. The foundation had the resources, the staff, and the programs that Noah needed to continue progressing. They had a team of experts who specialized in communication disorders, and they were excited to work with Noah. That first day at the foundation, as Ethan and Lily accompanied Noah into the brightly colored therapy room, Ethan couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. There was a sense of nervousness, but also a deep sense of hope. They were taking a big step, and he knew it could make all the difference for Noah. The therapist, a kind woman named Grace, welcomed them with a warm smile. She had years of experience working with children like Noah, and her calm and reassuring presence put both Ethan and Noah at ease. Grace spent the first session getting to know Noah, observing his reactions, and interacting with him through simple games and exercises designed to encourage speech. Ethan watched, quietly amazed at how Noah responded to Grace's gentle guidance. It was clear that the foundation's approach was different. They didn't push Noah too hard, and they didn't overwhelm him. They worked at his pace, using positive reinforcement and making sure that he felt safe and supported every step of the way. Over the course of the following weeks, Noah attended therapy sessions at the foundation several times a week. Each session was carefully planned to engage him while also challenging him just enough to help him grow. Ethan continued to be amazed at the progress Noah made. His son was beginning to say more words, stringing them together in small phrases. It wasn't much, but for Ethan, it was a monumental shift. There was something magical about watching Noah start to find his voice. A voice that had been hidden for so long. At home, Ethan and Lily continued to support Noah's development. They followed the routine they had created, making sure that Noah's environment was consistent and calm. But it wasn't just about speech anymore. It was about helping Noah build confidence, about showing him that the world was a safe place where he could express himself. One evening, after a particularly successful therapy session, Ethan and Lily sat down together in the living room. Noah was in his room, playing quietly with his toys, and the house was calm. Ethan looked at Lily, his expression thoughtful. "Lily, I can't thank you enough," he said quietly. What you've done for Noah. What you've done for both of us. I don't know where we'd be without you." Lily smiled, her eyes softening as she looked at Ethan. "Ethan, you don't have to thank me. This is about Noah, about giving him the best chance we can. I'm just glad to be here, to help in whatever way I can." Ethan nodded, but there was something more he wanted to say. He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Lily," he began, "I've been thinking about everything you've said, about your dreams, your Center for Children with Special Needs. I want you to know that I'm behind you, 100%. I don't know what the future holds, but I want you to know that whatever path you choose, we'll be there together. You've made such a difference in Noah's life, and I think your center would do the same for so many others." Lily looked at him, her expression touched by his words. "Ethan, that means more to me than you know," she said softly. "I've always wanted to help children like Noah, but I never imagined I'd have someone like you supporting me. It's more than I ever dreamed of." Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. "Well, you've helped us. You've helped Noah more than I ever could have imagined. We'll do this together, whatever it takes." The next day, Ethan made the decision to take action. He called some of his business contacts and began exploring ways to help Lily with her dream of starting the center. He didn't have all the answers, but he was determined to make it happen. And, as he spoke to the people who could help, he realized something. He wasn't just building a future for Noah, he was building a future for all of them. Over time, their lives began to settle into a rhythm, a routine that worked for their family. Noah's progress continued, and Ethan found himself looking forward to each new day with a sense of excitement for what the future held. There were still challenges, of course, and there would be more obstacles along the way. But for the first time in a long time, Ethan felt like they were on the right path. The foundation had given them the tools they needed, and Lily's presence had brought a sense of warmth and security into their home that they hadn't known before. It wasn't just about Noah speaking anymore. It was about building a future where Noah could thrive, where he could be the best version of himself. And with Lily by their side, Ethan knew that anything was possible. The decision to move forward with Lily's dream of opening a center for children with special needs was not something Ethan took lightly. As weeks passed, he worked tirelessly to secure funding and resources. And soon, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Ethan was not a stranger to business, but the stakes felt different this time. This was not just about expanding his wealth or growing his empire. This was about giving back, about making a real difference in the world. He wanted to make sure that Lily's dream came true, and he was determined to do whatever it took to help. As the plans for the center took shape, Ethan's confidence in their future continued to grow. With the financial backing Ethan provided, and the vision Lily had for the center, it wasn't long before they were able to secure a location. The space was perfect for their needs, large, open, and filled with natural light. It was a place where children could feel safe and encouraged to explore, learn, and grow. Ethan knew that this center would not only help Noah, but would also provide a much-needed resource for countless other children who faced similar challenges. However, as the center came closer to opening, a new challenge emerged, one that Ethan hadn't anticipated. The foundation they had partnered with had introduced Noah to new therapies and techniques, all of which were helping him make tremendous progress. But it wasn't enough. Noah had begun to show signs that he was struggling with the expectations placed on him. Ethan had always believed in pushing his son to reach his full potential, but he began to realize that Noah needed time to process, time to adapt. It wasn't just about learning to speak. It was about helping Noah adjust to a world that had, for so long, been closed off to him. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, Ethan sat in his office at home, staring out at the sprawling estate. His mind was filled with questions. Was he doing the right thing for Noah? Had he been pushing too hard? He thought about the way Noah looked at him sometimes, those silent, questioning eyes, and it made him pause. Just then, Lily walked into the room, her gentle presence filling the space. She knew something was on Ethan's mind, and she knew he wasn't one to open up easily. But tonight, she could see the weight of the world on his shoulders. "Ethan," she said softly, sitting beside him. "What's going on? You've been quiet for days." Ethan exhaled deeply, rubbing his hands over his face. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice heavy. "I've been thinking about Noah. He's making progress, but I can see that he's struggling. I think I've been pushing him too hard. expecting too much too soon. Lily looked at him, her eyes filled with understanding. She reached over, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. "Ethan, you've done so much for Noah. You've given him every opportunity, but sometimes he just needs to go at his own pace. Progress takes time, and it's not a race." Ethan nodded slowly, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. He knew Lily was right. He had been so focused on pushing Noah towards success that he hadn't stopped to consider what Noah truly needed. "You're right," he said, his voice softening. "I just want him to be happy, to find his voice. But I think I've been so focused on fixing things that I forgot he needs room to grow on his own terms." Lily smiled warmly, her hand still resting on his arm. "No one expects you to have all the answers. You're a great dad, Ethan. Noah is lucky to have you, and he knows that. You're giving him the best thing he could ever ask for your love and your patience, and that's more than enough." Ethan felt a wave of relief wash over him. For so long, he had felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, thinking that it was all on him to make things right. But now, with Lily's encouragement, he realized that he didn't have to do it alone. He had a partner in this, someone who understood him and believed in him. The next day, Ethan decided to take a step back. He spoke with Noah's therapists at the foundation and discussed the need for a slower, more gentle approach. He knew that Noah would continue to progress, but he needed to be given the space to do it at his own pace. Ethan also made sure that Noah's schedule was adjusted to include more downtime, more opportunities for play, and less pressure to perform. Over time, Noah thrived in this new environment. He began to speak more regularly, his words growing more confident as he realized he didn't have to rush. Ethan watched with pride as his son found his rhythm. But it wasn't just about Noah's progress, it was about the realization that sometimes, the best way to help someone was to give them the space to find their own way. And that was the lesson Ethan took to heart. As the weeks passed, the Center for Children with Special Needs opened its doors, and it quickly became a beacon of hope for families in need. Ethan and Lily's partnership grew stronger with each passing day. Together, they were not just helping children speak. They were helping them find their place in the world. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan felt truly at peace, knowing that he had done everything he could to give Noah the best future possible. With Lily by his side, and a bright new chapter ahead, the future was filled with endless possibilities. As the Center for Children with Special Needs officially opened, Ethan and Lily could feel the weight of their hard work finally paying off. The space was everything they had dreamed of: bright, welcoming, and full of life. It had been a long journey to get to this point, but seeing the children walk in with their parents, their faces full of hope, made every challenge along the way worth it. Ethan stood by the entrance, watching as the first group of children arrived with their families. There was a mix of excitement and nervousness in the air. For many of the children, this would be their first time in a place designed specifically to help them. For the parents, it was the start of a new chapter, one that they hoped would help their children overcome obstacles they had faced for so long. Ethan turned to Lily, who was standing next to him, her eyes scanning the room with a look of quiet pride. "It's really happening," he said softly, his voice filled with awe. Lily smiled, her eyes reflecting the same mixture of emotions. "It is," she replied, "and it's just the beginning. There's so much more we can do here." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. But this time, it felt different. It wasn't just about his family anymore, it was about the future of these children, about giving them the tools they needed to succeed. They were giving them the gift of a chance, and that was something they could never take for granted. Over the next few weeks, the center quickly became a place of support and learning. Children who had struggled with communication began to make strides, gaining confidence as they were encouraged to express themselves in ways they had never been able to before. The therapists, teachers, and staff at the center worked tirelessly, providing each child with the personalized care they needed. For Noah, the transformation was remarkable. The slow, steady progress he had made over the past months had turned into something more tangible. His words were growing clearer, and his ability to form simple sentences was becoming more consistent. It was still a journey, but the difference was undeniable. Ethan could see his son beginning to thrive in ways he had never thought possible. One afternoon, as Ethan watched Noah interact with another child at the center, he felt a rush of emotion. There was a quiet pride in seeing his son take part in something so meaningful. He had watched Noah struggle for so long, but now, he was beginning to experience the world in a whole new way. He was finding his voice. As Ethan stood in the doorway, Lily approached him. "You look proud," she said with a smile. Ethan glanced over at her, his heart full. "I am," he replied quietly. "I didn't think we'd be here so soon. I didn't think Noah would get to this point. But I can see it now, he's really starting to connect with the world around him." Lily nodded, her expression softening. "He's come so far, and you've been there for him every step of the way." Ethan shook his head. "I couldn't have done it without you," he said. "Without you, none of this would have been possible." Lily smiled gently, but there was something more in her eyes. "We've done this together," she said, her voice warm. "And it's not over. There's still so much more to do. For Noah. For all of them." Ethan's heart swelled with gratitude. He knew she was right. This was just the beginning. There was still so much work to be done, so many children who needed the kind of help they were offering at the center. And Ethan, now more than ever, was committed to making sure they had everything they needed to succeed. As the days turned into weeks, the center continued to grow and evolve. More families reached out. More children found their way to the support they needed. The community surrounding the center began to thrive, and Ethan could see the impact it was having on the children and their families. But even as the center flourished, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something more was on the horizon. He had built a successful business empire, but it felt different. The work they were doing at the center was more meaningful than anything he had ever done before. And as he watched Noah continue to grow, continue to find his voice, Ethan realized that his journey had come full circle. The man who had once been focused solely on success and achievement was now focused on something more important, creating a legacy of hope. It wasn't about wealth anymore. It was about giving back, about helping others find their path. And as he looked at the children in the center, he knew that this was the kind of legacy that would last, the kind that would change lives for generations to come. As Ethan stood there, surrounded by the laughter and energy of the children, he felt a deep sense of peace. This was his new purpose, and he was ready to see it through. Together, with Lily by his side, they would continue to build a brighter future, not just for Noah, but for all the children who walked through the doors of the center. And as the years passed, Ethan knew that the ripple effect of their work would be felt far beyond the walls of the center. They were giving these children the chance to find their voice, to be seen, and to be heard. And in doing so, they were changing the world. One child at a time. As the months went by, Ethan and Lily watched the center grow into something even more remarkable than they had ever imagined. More children were benefiting from the programs they had worked so hard to build, and the feedback from parents was overwhelmingly positive. The sense of fulfillment they both felt was unlike anything Ethan had ever experienced before. This wasn't just a business venture, it was a life-changing project that was making a real difference. As the center flourished, Ethan found himself dedicating more time to it. His business empire, though still successful, didn't consume his every thought the way it once had. Now, his focus was on creating opportunities for the children at the center to ensure that they had everything they needed to thrive. There were moments, of course, when Ethan found himself stretched thin balancing the demands of the center, his business, and his responsibilities as a father. But with Lily by his side, he felt like they could handle anything. She had become more than just a partner in the center. She was his support, his sounding board, and the person who kept him grounded when things got overwhelming. One afternoon, after an exhausting meeting with a potential donor for the center, Ethan sat in his office at the center, staring out the window. The soft hum of the office around him faded as his thoughts turned inward. He had come so far, but there was still so much more to do. The center had made incredible strides, but there were still more children who needed help. There were still more obstacles to overcome. He felt the familiar weight of responsibility settling in. "You okay?" Lily's voice broke through his thoughts. Ethan turned to see her standing in the doorway, her expression concerned. He smiled faintly, trying to hide the exhaustion he felt. "Yeah, just thinking about everything. We've come a long way, but there's so much more to do." Lily walked over and sat beside him. "I know," she said softly. "But look at everything we've accomplished so far. Look at how far Noah has come. Look at all the kids who are getting help because of this center. You're doing something incredible, Ethan." Her words were like a balm to his soul. Ethan looked at her, his heart swelling with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you," he said quietly. "I don't think I would have made it this far if you weren't here." Lily gave him a small, reassuring smile. "We've done this together, and we're not stopping now. There's more work to do, but we've got this. We're building something that's going to last. We're giving these kids a chance to find their voices." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle in his chest. It was true. They weren't just building a center. They were building a future where these children could thrive, where they could overcome the challenges they faced. And as they continued to work together, Ethan realized something that had eluded him for so long. It wasn't just about success anymore. It wasn't about wealth or recognition. It was about making a lasting impact, about creating a legacy that would outlive him. As the weeks turned into months, the center's impact continued to grow. Ethan and Lily worked tirelessly to expand the programs, to reach more children, and to ensure that they were providing the best possible care. The center became a beacon of hope in the community, and Ethan knew that their work was far from over. But even as the demands of running the center increased, Ethan made sure to carve out time for Noah. He had learned that no matter how busy life got, his son always came first. Watching Noah speak more and more, watching him gain confidence and independence, was the most rewarding part of all. Ethan knew that Noah's journey was far from over, but the progress he had made was nothing short of miraculous. One evening, as Ethan watched Noah playing outside, a sense of peace washed over him. He had come so far, both personally and professionally, and he was finally at a place where he felt like he was truly making a difference. He had found his purpose, helping Noah, helping children like him, and creating a future where they all had the chance to thrive. And as he stood there, watching his son laugh and play, Ethan knew that he was exactly where he was meant to be. This was just the beginning, and with Lily by his side, there was no limit to what they could accomplish. Together, they were changing lives, one child at a time. As the center continued to thrive, Ethan found himself facing new challenges. The initial success had brought them more attention, and with that attention came more responsibility. More families reached out, more children needed help, and more funding was required to expand their services. Ethan had always been able to manage his business, but this was different. The center was personal. It wasn't just a business venture. It was a mission, a cause that had become close to his heart. He had never imagined how much it would demand of him, or how much it would change his life. But even as the weight of these new responsibilities pressed on him, he never lost sight of why he had started this journey in the first place. He was doing this for Noah, for every child who needed the kind of support the center could provide. As the days passed, Ethan found himself spending more time at the center, managing the logistics, meeting with donors, and ensuring that everything ran smoothly. There were moments when it felt overwhelming, when he wished he could just focus on Noah and their family, but he knew the center needed him. It wasn't just about helping Noah anymore, it was about helping all of the children who walked through those doors. But even with all the demands of running the center, Ethan made sure to spend time with Noah. He knew that Noah's journey wasn't over, and he wanted to be there every step of the way. Together, they continued to work on Noah's speech, his confidence growing with each passing day. The boy who had once been silent was now speaking more and more. It was a slow process, but the progress was undeniable. One evening, after a long day at the center, Ethan sat down with Lily in their living room. The weight of the day hung heavily on his shoulders, but there was a sense of contentment in the air. Noah was asleep in his room, the soft sound of his breathing drifting through the house. Lily looked over at Ethan, her eyes filled with understanding. "You've been working non-stop," she said gently. "How are you holding up?" Ethan sighed, rubbing his temples. "I'm fine, just tired. There's so much to do. I feel like I'm barely keeping up with everything." Lily reached out and placed a hand on his. "You're doing amazing," she said softly. "But you don't have to do it all alone. You've built something incredible here, and Noah is thriving because of it. We're all in this together." Ethan looked at her, his heart swelling with gratitude. She was right. He didn't have to do it all alone. He had built a team, he had Lily, and he had the support of the community. The weight didn't have to rest on his shoulders alone. "I know," he said, his voice soft. "It's just hard sometimes. I want to make sure everything goes perfectly, especially for Noah." But I'm starting to realize that it's not about perfection. It's about progress. And we're getting there. Lily smiled, squeezing his hand. Exactly. It's about taking things one step at a time. And look at how far we've come. Look at Noah. Look at the center. It's all coming together. Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over him. For the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to truly see the progress they had made. It wasn't perfect, but it was something real, something lasting. The next day, they received a visit from a well-known philanthropist who had been following the progress of the center. He was impressed with what Ethan and Lily had accomplished and expressed interest in contributing significantly to the center's future. This was the break they had been hoping for. It meant more resources, more opportunities to expand, and more children they could help. As Ethan met with the philanthropist, he couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. This was the kind of support they had needed to take the center to the next level. With the philanthropist's help, they could provide even more services to children like Noah. This was the turning point, the moment when everything they had worked for started to align. But as the meeting concluded, and the philanthropist left with promises of funding, Ethan found himself reflecting on the journey that had led them here. He thought about the lonely nights, the challenges, the setbacks, but most of all, he thought about Noah, the boy who had started this journey silent and isolated, but now was finding his voice. And with that, Ethan realized something important. The center was more than just a place for children with special needs. It was a place of hope, a place where dreams could be realized. As he watched the sun set that evening, casting a warm glow over the center, Ethan knew that their work wasn't finished. There was still so much more to be done, but they were on the right path. And with Lily by his side, and a community of support behind them, they were ready to continue changing lives, one child at a time. As the months went on, the center continued to grow, becoming a vital part of the community. The impact it had on the children, including Noah, was undeniable. Ethan and Lily had built something special, a place where children could feel supported and understood, and where their families could find hope. However, even with all the success, Ethan found himself facing an unexpected challenge. The attention from the philanthropist had led to more recognition, and with that recognition came new pressures. There were increased expectations, not just from donors, but from the community and the families who depended on the center. Every day felt like a balancing act, as Ethan tried to keep up with the demands of the center, his business, and his family. Despite everything, his commitment to Noah remained his top priority. As much as the center was thriving, Ethan knew there was still so much work to be done. He found himself reflecting on the journey, thinking about how far they had come. It had been a long road, filled with obstacles, but it had also been filled with moments of growth and discovery. Watching Noah speak more confidently every day, seeing him interact with other children at the center, made all the challenges worth it. One day, as Ethan was sitting in his office at the center, reviewing some paperwork, he received an unexpected phone call. It was from the foundation that had first helped Noah. They wanted to feature the center in a documentary about children with special needs and the organizations that were making a difference. Ethan was both flattered and overwhelmed by the idea. It was an incredible opportunity, but it also meant a lot of attention on the center and on Noah. Ethan knew that Noah was doing better, but he wasn't sure if he was ready for that level of exposure. As he pondered the request, Lily walked in, sensing the tension in the air. "What's going on?" she asked. Ethan explained the call and the offer from the foundation. Lily listened carefully, her brow furrowing as she thought it over. "I think it's a great opportunity," she said after a moment. "It could bring even more awareness to what we're doing here. But I understand your concerns. It's a lot of pressure, and Noah is still on his journey." Ethan nodded, appreciating her understanding. He had always tried to protect Noah from too much attention, wanting him to grow at his own pace. "I just want to make sure that Noah is ready for this," Ethan said. "He's come so far, but I don't want to rush him." Lily walked over to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You're right to be cautious. But I think Noah has come a long way, because he's had the chance to grow at his own pace, with the right support. If we move forward with this, we'll make sure he's comfortable. We'll protect him and make sure this is a positive experience for him." Ethan looked at Lily, feeling a sense of relief. He knew that, with her by his side, they could handle whatever came their way. "I trust you," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. Together, they decided to move forward with the documentary. The filming process took several weeks, and during that time, the crew spent time at the center, capturing the incredible work being done and the transformations taking place. It was emotional for Ethan to watch, especially when they filmed Noah. The boy who had once been silent, who had struggled to express himself, was now speaking more and more, interacting with the other children, and smiling as he made progress. During one of the sessions, the crew asked Ethan to speak on camera about the journey they had been on with Noah. Ethan sat down, the camera rolling in front of him, and as he spoke, he felt a wave of emotion wash over him. When Noah was born, we had no idea what the future would hold. We didn't know what to expect, and there were so many moments when it felt like we were at a dead end. But through it all, I've seen him grow in ways I never imagined. And now, thanks to the center and the people who have supported us, I can see the light in his eyes again. I can see him thriving. And that's the greatest gift I could ever ask for. As Ethan spoke those words, he realized just how far they had come, not just with Noah's progress, but with the center, with the families they had helped, and with the life they had built together. The documentary, once completed, was a huge success. It brought even more families to the center, more children who needed help, and more donors who wanted to contribute to the cause. Ethan felt a deep sense of pride, knowing that the work they had done was making an impact, but also a sense of peace. The center was exactly what it needed to be, a place of hope, of growth, and of opportunity. But more than that, it was a reflection of everything he and Lily had built together. As the center expanded and more children found their voices, Ethan knew they were just getting started. The future was full of possibilities, and with Lily by his side, he felt ready to face whatever challenges came next. They were a family, and together they had created something that would change the lives of children for generations to come. As the documentary aired and the center continued to grow, Ethan found himself at a crossroads. The attention they had received brought both new opportunities and new pressures. The families seeking help had multiplied, and the demand for the center's services was higher than ever. Ethan knew that this was the moment to take things to the next level. But there was a part of him that worried about how far they could stretch themselves. The balance between work, family, and running the center was becoming more difficult to maintain. Noah's progress had been incredible, and Ethan was proud of his son every day. Yet, he couldn't help but feel the weight of the responsibility on his shoulders. The center wasn't just a place for children to get help, it had become a symbol of hope, and with that came an unspoken expectation. One evening, after a long day of meetings and phone calls, Ethan sat alone in his office, staring at the paperwork in front of him. He rubbed his eyes, feeling the exhaustion settle in. The demands of the center were relentless, and sometimes he felt like he was losing sight of the bigger picture. He thought about Noah, about how far he had come, and how proud he was of his son. But then, his mind wandered to Lily. She had been his partner in this journey from the very beginning, and he knew that without her, none of this would have been possible. Yet, lately, he had been so focused on the day-to-day operations of the center that he hadn't been fully present for her, or for their relationship. Ethan's thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on the door. He looked up to see Lily standing there, her expression a mixture of concern and care. "Ethan," she said softly, "I think we need to talk." Ethan gestured for her to sit, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Of course," he replied, feeling the tension in his shoulders ease slightly. Lily walked in and sat down across from him, her eyes searching his face. "You've been working non-stop," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "And I can tell it's taking a toll on you." Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know how to manage it all anymore. The center, my business, Noah. I want to be there for all of it, but I'm stretched thin." Lily nodded, her expression softening. "I get it, Ethan. I really do. But you're not in this alone. We're a team, remember?" Ethan looked at her, his heart swelling with gratitude. He had been so focused on trying to do everything himself that he had forgotten the most important thing: he had Lily by his side, and together they could handle anything. "You're right," he said quietly. "I've been so focused on the center, I haven't taken the time to really breathe. I've lost sight of what matters most. I don't want to burn out, but I don't know how to slow down." Lily smiled softly, reaching across the desk to take his hand. "You don't have to do it all. Let's figure out how we can make it work together. We've built something incredible here, and we can keep it going without you sacrificing everything." Ethan looked at her, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Lily. I don't know what I'd do without you." Lily squeezed his hand gently. "You don't have to. We're in this together, every step of the way." Over the next few days, Ethan and Lily made a plan to better manage their time and responsibilities. They brought in more help at the center, hired additional staff, and created a schedule that allowed Ethan to spend more time with Noah and Lily, while still ensuring that the center could continue to thrive. It wasn't easy, and there were times when Ethan felt like he was still juggling too many things at once, but he was beginning to feel a sense of balance. He realized that taking time for himself, for his family, and for his relationship with Lily wasn't a sign of weakness. It was necessary for the long-term success of everything he cared about. As they worked together to navigate these new changes, Ethan noticed something remarkable. Noah, who had been making steady progress with his speech, was now more confident than ever. The sessions at the center, combined with the consistency at home, had given Noah the tools he needed to communicate more effectively. It was still a journey, but every new word, every new sentence, was a victory. Ethan watched Noah as he spoke more clearly each day, his heart filled with pride. He had come so far, and Ethan knew that, with Lily by his side, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. As the months passed, the center's impact grew, and the community around them strengthened. Ethan felt the weight of responsibility still, but now it felt lighter. With Lily's unwavering support and their shared vision for the future, they were building something that would last. And as Ethan sat in his office one evening, watching Noah play outside with other children from the center, he realized that this was what it was all about. The love, the hope, the possibility. It was everything he had worked for, and it was more than enough. As the years passed, the center continued to flourish, becoming a beacon of hope for children with special needs and their families. Ethan and Lily's dedication had transformed not only the lives of the children they helped, but also the entire community. The challenges they had faced were not over, but with each passing day, they had learned to overcome them together. They had built something far greater than they could have imagined when they first started. The center had become a second home for the children, a place where they could grow, learn, and find their voices. It was also a place where their families found support and strength, a community where no one was ever alone. Ethan stood in the doorway of the center one evening, watching the children play outside. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the building, and the laughter of the children echoed in the air. He felt a deep sense of pride and gratitude for everything they had accomplished. When he first started this journey, he never imagined that it would lead him here, that he would not only see his own son find his voice, but also help so many others do the same. He looked over to Lily, who was standing beside him, watching the children with the same look of satisfaction on her face. Their journey had been difficult, but it had been worth every moment. They had created something that would last long after they were gone. "We did it," Ethan said softly, his voice filled with emotion. Lily smiled, her eyes meeting his. "We did," she agreed. "And we'll continue to do it. For as long as we can." Ethan reached for her hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." Lily squeezed his hand back. "We're a team, Ethan. Always have been, always will be." As they stood there together, watching the children, Ethan knew that the center had become something bigger than just a place for therapy or support. It had become a place of possibility, a place where children could dream and reach for those dreams, knowing that there was a community of people who believed in them. And for Ethan, that was the greatest gift of all. The center's success continued to grow, and so did Noah's progress. The boy who had once been silent was now confidently expressing himself. He had not only found his voice, but had also discovered a love for learning and an enthusiasm for life that Ethan had never thought possible. Ethan and Lily were more than just partners in this endeavor. They had become a family, bound together by a shared mission and a deep love for the children they were helping. And as they looked toward the future, they knew that the work they had started was far from over. They had created a legacy of hope, of perseverance, and of the belief that every child, no matter their challenges, deserved the chance to succeed. And that belief would continue to guide them, just as it had from the very beginning. Ethan smiled as he watched Noah run across the playground, laughing and playing with the other children. His son had come so far, and Ethan knew that the journey was only just beginning. The road ahead would have its challenges, but together, they were ready for whatever came next. They had built something incredible, something that would continue to grow and change lives for years to come. And with Lily by his side, Ethan knew that anything was possible. In this touching journey of growth and perseverance, this story highlights the transformative power of love, dedication, and community support, as seen in the life of a millionaire single dad who builds a center for children with special needs. His initial struggles as a father to a nonverbal child turn into a powerful tale of progress and possibility, showing how even the most challenging situations can lead to success. As the center grows, so does the impact on the children, including his own son, who finds his voice in ways no one thought possible. This is a true example of how millionaire stories can be much more than just wealth. They can be about using one's resources and influence to create lasting change in the lives of others. Through this inspiring millionaire story, we see the value of persistence and patience as the millionaire works alongside his dedicated partner to expand the center, helping countless children along the way. The story doesn't just highlight the financial success, but emphasizes how wealth, when used with purpose, can change the world for the better. If you're interested in millionaire stories that showcase personal growth, love, and making a real difference, this journey is sure to leave a lasting impression. By the end, it becomes clear that the true value of millionaire stories is not measured in dollars, but in the lives touched, the community built, and the future made brighter for so many children. This heartfelt millionaire story reminds us that success is not just about financial wealth, but about the impact we make on the world around us.